everyone, thank you for joining me here on the Noble Crumb. My name is Jason. So today I am baking one of my absolute favorite pies in the entire world, which is a raspberry rhubarb pie. Now, the combination of raspberries with the rhubarb is something a little bit different for most people. I find most people tend to do a strawberry rhubarb pie. I'm not the biggest fan of the texture of cooked strawberries. So I remember years ago when I first tried this version with raspberries, it literally blew my mind, and the taste is something out of this world. So if you've never tried a combination of raspberry and rhubarb together in a pie, oh my god, get ready for something that is going to be so delicious. You're absolutely going to love it, trust me. So here are the ingredients you're going to need today to make our raspberry rhubarb pie. Now for the pie crust for this recipe, please feel free to use your own recipe, use a frozen pie crust, or check out my video for the perfect pie crust. I will put a link to it in the comment section below, and I hope you get a chance to try it out. Alright, for our raspberry rhubarb pie filling, you are going to need 1 1/3 cups of white sugar, 3 cups of rhubarb, either fresh or frozen, 3 cups of raspberries, either fresh or frozen, 4 tablespoons of cornstarch, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and we're going to use an egg wash on the top of the pie, which is 1 egg mixed with 1 tablespoon of water. And then we're going to top this with a sprinkling of sugar. Now we're going to blind bake the bottom of our crust at 400 degrees for 15 minutes before we put our filling in. Then we will bake our pie at 425 for 30 minutes. Okay, so to make the filling for our pie, I have a large pot here on the stove with medium heat. And now I'm going to take my fruit. So I have 3 cups of rhubarb and 3 cups of raspberries. This stuff was frozen, and I just let it thaw to room temperature. So that's going to go into the pot. If I can get it all in there. And then to that, we're going to add in 1 1/3 cups of sugar. So there's half a cup, 1 cup, and 1/3. We're also going to add, as always, pretty much everything. You're going to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And we're also going to add about a tablespoon of lemon juice. But apparently I can't get the top off. There we go. Not measuring, just about a tablespoon. And what we're going to do now is, over a medium heat, I'm just going to keep mixing this, let everything kind of come to reduce, get the juices out, and start our filling, and then we will thicken our filling. The medium heat, we're just going to let that sit there and do its thing. So after a couple of minutes, my mixture started to come to a bit of a boil. So I'm going to let this bubble away for a few minutes, keep stirring it so that it doesn't burn, and we're going to let it reduce a little bit before we start thickening it. So my pie filling has been bubbling away here for about 5 minutes. What we're going to do now is we're going to thicken it. So I'm going to take my 4 tablespoons of cornstarch that I have here in a little container, and I'm going to take out about a half a cup of the liquid out of the pie filling and mix this in with the cornstarch. We'll mix it in a separate container so we can get all the lumps, and then I'll pour this into our pie filling mixture, and it will start thickening up immediately. And we'll let this bubble away for about another 2 minutes. All right, so after a couple of minutes, you can see that this has thickened up into a nice jam-like consistency. So that means this is ready to come off of the heat, and we're going to put this in a bowl to let it cool down. So I have my heat-proof dish here, and I'm going to pour my filling into the bowl, making sure that I scrape every last little bit of this out of the pot. And then the most important part, like if we were doing a custard or any other kind of fruit curd, I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap and press the plastic wrap down directly on top of the filling so that it doesn't develop a skin on top of it. Okay, so I've got my pie crust here that has been chilling in the fridge for about 30 minutes. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a fork and I'm going to prick all over the surface of it. The reason for this is going to help prevent any big air bubbles or steam bubbles that are going to develop when we par bake this in the oven. Now I'm going to take a piece of parchment paper to put inside because this is going to hold my pie weights. Now, if you don't have pie weights, you can use beans or rice or anything like that that's basically not going to cook in the oven. The reason for using the pie beads is just to help prevent the pastry from shrinking from the pan. And this crust is going to go into the oven at 400 degrees for 15 minutes. And after 15 minutes, my crust is looking absolutely beautiful. And we're going to let this cool down before we add our filling. So while everything's sitting down and cooling, I'm going to prepare the top layer of my pie crust. So just like before in our pie crust recipe, I'm going to sprinkle down flour and roll out my dough to the size of the pie plate. Okay, so I made a mistake when I was doing this, and I'm gonna own up to it because I could have gone back and kind of redid the video, but I made a mistake, and these things happen when you're at home in your own kitchen. So when I went to put the top layer of pastry onto the pie, I should have let the filling cool. I was in a rush and I had to go somewhere in a little bit. So as you'll see when I'm putting the top layer of pie dough on top, the butter started to melt from the heat from the filling that was inside. So I didn't really get the chance to make the edge and the crust look very pretty on this one. But you know what? I'm not going to stress about it. These things happen. The taste is just the same. The pie just maybe doesn't look as pretty as I would have hoped. So hopefully you guys can kind of forgive me for this little mistake. But definitely I would recommend letting your filling cool before putting the top layer dough. And then you can do some nice fancy crimping around for your crust. So yeah, enjoy. Now, it is important that you do some kind of venting on top of your pie to let the steam release. Otherwise, you're going to end up with some filling bursting all over the place, and your pie is not going to look good. And now I'm going to take my egg wash and with a pastry brush, I'm going to brush it all over the top of the pie. And then I'm going to finish this off with a sprinkling of sugar on top. And now that my pie is ready, this is going to go into the oven at 425 for 30 minutes until the top is nice and golden brown. And after 30 minutes, my pie is done. It looks absolutely delicious, even though it isn't as fancy as I was hoping. But hey, these things happen at home in the kitchen. Okay, so I am really excited to hear what you guys think of my raspberry rhubarb pie and what you think of this combination. I know it's not something so crazy and so different, but for me, the taste, I don't know why I never thought of combining them before in the past, but it is pretty much, when it comes to fruit pies, one of my favorites. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and I will see you guys later. Thank you for joining me here on the Noble Crumb. Bye.